we're gonna have another DIY. So what I have here is my GoPro setup, and then I have my tripod. And the issue I'm having is the base here, it's on a swivel, so it twists around, and that's kind of scary in a sense of, if you look in there, right there, you'll see those little tabs, and that's what holds all this together. So that's what keeps everything rotating and locked in as you rotate it in different positions. The issue with that is over time plastic breaks, especially plastic that's constantly moving in and out, like these fingers here. Are they when you push them in to slide them onto the GoPro mount, you slide them on, but you got to constantly push them in and then push them in to take them off. And the issue I have there is right in this area is the smallest area, or the smallest point, and it's potentially there's a potential that these would eventually break over time as well. So the GoPro ones, same thing, you know, they're real thin in this area, and that allows you to pinch it and slide off your mount. Well, I have a water mount one, and the original housing that the GoPro came with, and what I do is I'll take out my camera and insert it into the original plastic one, so that way it could be submerged in water. Of course, I close up the door and everything, but I don't want to lose it in the water, because I have this mount on there as well, so that way I could pivot it around as I need to. And so what I came up with is a solution for that, so that way I have an anchor point. So on the GoPro setup, you have this 1/4-20 threaded screw. This is an aluminum one. You could use the OEM plastic one that it came with, but it's anchored at this point, and it has the 1/4-20 thread going all the way through. So that means that it connects the base and the top together. So it connects both of those together with one rod. So if this base ever broke and fell off, this will stay attached to the camera. So what I'm gonna do is drill a hole through this thread, or through this thumb portion. So drill a hole straight through there. So I'm gonna run a piece of this 95 paracord through there, because it's real thin and strong, and tie it off in there, and then have the rest of it, maybe about 2 to 3 inches of it, and anchor it off on one of these things right here. So I'm gonna attach one of these onto the end of the paracord, permanently attach the rope to here, and then when I'm not using it, if I don't want to, I could always clip it to something. So that's no big deal. But you have a few options. So you have this G hook, S-beaner type carabiner. You have these things that you put on keychains, the key ring, and then you have these titanium ones, which are pretty cool because they have a lot of flex in them, but they're really strong and really lightweight. These you could buy on eBay really cheap as well. And then, so depending on how easy you want it to attach and detach is what you end up buying. So all these will work fine. And what you want is, I have this aluminum plate that attaches to the GoPro as the base. And the reason why I chose the aluminum over the plastic is because I had the plastic, and right where it threads in, it ended up ripping out and my camera fell. So I'm going to drill a hole on this end of it, right there all the way to the edge, and I'm going to decide whether or not to use one of these to slide through, or a carabiner like this, or a smaller carabiner. I'll probably get one of these that is a lot smaller, about this size, and then attach it there. So let's get this drilled out and see, you know, what we're gonna need in order to make this work. So we have a 7/64 and a 5/32 drill bit, and what we want to do is take the 7/64 and drill it in one of these slots on the thumb screw. So whether or not you want to drill it on the back side or straight at the bottom is up to you. I prefer to go at the bottom because if this thing ever fell and your paracord's on the back side, it's going to want to rotate this thumb screw down and loosen up, and you want to try to prevent that. So when this falls off, it's going to fall off with the weight facing downward because that's where the mass is going to go, and your lanyard's going to pull like that. So if it's back here, it's going to want to unspin it. So you don't want that. Do it at the bottom or do it from the front, and that'll prevent that. So let's go ahead and drill out with the 7/64, since that's the thickness or close to the thickness of this paracord. And so then let's take this 5/32 drill bit and drill through your aluminum base. Remember, these aluminum bases are not all equal. They're all CNC machine for the most part, but some of them right here on this tab here, and this tab, when you go and slide it into your buckle to the base, it's really loose. So your camera will do this because the tolerances are way off. So I got the one without the aluminum or the brass insert in the center, and this seemed to work the best. This one's really a really tight fit, so this is the one I recommend. The one with the brass insert, be careful and watch the reviews on them on Amazon, and you'll see that a lot of people had trouble with the ones with the brass insert, only because the buckle cannot fit in there. You can fix that, however, by putting the spacer that goes in between here, the rubber spacer that keeps this from collapsing, and that will help because it pushes the tabs outward and really cinches your GoPro in there. But in order to avoid all that mess, just get one that fits good. So as you can see, this is the original mount, the one that I use for submerging in water. And so when you put this on a selfie stick, you could submerge it in the lake or whatever and get some really cool footage, but you don't want to lose your camera. So after you drilled it out, as you can see, it's at the bottom. And then I tied a knot, I burned the end, and I wet my finger with your spit and touch the end while it's still hot, so that way it kind of allows it to singe the ends. So it gives it a nice end, so that way it doesn't come off. You could also wet your finger in water and touch it. Be careful because this stays really hot, so you will burn yourself if you don't put enough water on the end of it. But what you want to do is also make sure you have enough paracord sticking out, so that way you could figure out how much you need to make your system work. And then I drilled this hole right in the middle. Once you drilled the hole, I angled the bit so that way the bit would sit at an angle in this direction. So I drilled directly down into it like that. Once I was done doing that, I drilled it this way, and then I flipped it over and drilled it that way too. And that's gonna allow you to run a smaller carabiner. So you could either run something like this on the end of here, open it up every time and slide it through, or you could do the method I did, and after I got everything cinched up here, I attached it to the S-biner. So this one's really tiny, and also you want to make sure that this hole is not really close to the edge, but close enough for you to fit this on, because if it's too far forward, it's going to interfere with your buckle here on this back side. So that back part of your buckle will cover up the hole, and you won't be able to get your carabiner or S-biner or your key ring on there. Also, you want to make sure that this hole isn't too large either, because if it's too large, you'll get rattling with this on there. So it's going to do that, and you don't want that noise, because that could potentially be picked up through your microphone, depending on how sensitive your microphone is, and it could distort your audio. So just a few tips, and you don't always have to have this locked in. You could have another hole where this one clips on and stays put up, or you can mount something like this. I have my cord ran through, and just clip it through something like that as well. Either way, it'll work out great. Okay, so once you got everything anchored off, you want to take your heat shrink, get some small heat shrink, maybe 1/8 inch or so, depending on your carabiner or your S-biner that you're using. And what you want to do is open this up, slide it up and over, close this back down, and slide this back down. That way, heat it up, so that way this end is always terminated and it does not ever open up, because you don't want this opening up and letting your cord slide out, because as you can see, there's a potential for that to happen based on that little gap there. Okay, so as you can see, I put the heat shrink on there. Now that won't come off. And then what I ended up doing was coming in from the back side like this. So when you snap it in, make sure it's inverted like that, and pops through, so that way it sits like that. If you do it the other way, where the hook is facing the actual the base, then you have a potential of it wanting to flip out, because you'll be relying on this edge here. So you'll be relying on this curvature and this spring right here. It's a little spring latch. So as you can see, if you did it this way, you'd push up on the spring latch and it'll be clipped down, but it has the potential to rotate and roll out. So as always, if this tutorial was helpful, a thumbs up would be greatly appreciated. If you want to see tutorials like this and other things that I will be posting up on my YouTube channel at any given time, hit that subscribe button. Until next time, see you.